Welcome back to Dad Mods. We're continuing the Shoebox Ford build series. I know it's been a minute. We had a couple of things to do in the interim, and then we got hit by a few disruptions, which we will talk about or have talked about in the latest podcast. So should be a link up above that we could send you there if you want to watch it. The plan for today is to start making this motor beautiful. Now that we've got the powder coating and ceramic coating spray booth finished, now let's use that thing. So we've got an LS engine, and these aren't actually too bad looking motors from the factory. I know a lot of the classic small block guys, small block Ford, small block Chevy, Mopar dudes, they don't necessarily love the look of the modern engine because you got things like coil packs and all that crap sitting on the top of it. Sometimes the intake manifolds are pretty hideous because they're a composite. But in this case, we're going a completely different direction with this build. So what the plan is, and we've been alluding to this for a little while now, and I realized I've got a bunch of crap stacked on the boxes, so I can't easily pull everything out. I'm going Sniper EFI on this build. Stoked for that, because what that's going to do is simplify this entire build. Simplify the look of the motor, simplify the installation of it. It's basically like slapping a carburetor on the car with a few extra wires. Obviously you need the fuel system to be up to par, but other than that, it's a very self-contained unit. I know a lot of guys are gonna be like, well, why wouldn't you just go and do like a Terminator X kit or something like that? It's just not the focus for this build. I'm not going to be doing forced induction. I'm wanting things to look as simple and as elegant as possible, and not saying that, you know, you can't get some beautiful, sheet metal intake manifolds. It's a beautiful looking motor, but I really like the idea of having this thing kind of look a little bit like a carburetor, and ultimately it should function very similarly. So Sniper EFI is a throttle body injection system, so it's different than multi-port, so it's not going to be quite as perfect as it, but you know, anybody who's ran these things before have had a lot of success with it. It works smooth. The intake manifold we're using is really compliant with it, which is a single plane, so you know, we're going to give it a try, and it should work out pretty good and really look the part. So going over some of the components we're using here. Sniper EFI kit. We've got an MSD LS ignition box, so that's a standalone ignition. So the Sniper doesn't have to worry about running it, the MSD unit runs it exclusively. We've got our single plane intake manifold, and we've got some fancy LS, the kind of classic looking valve cover that hides the coils underneath it. So that's actually going to hide that whole coil system. The whole ignition system is going to be really simplified. And then there's no distributor to dick around with. So that's going to be super cool too. So, cue B-roll. Let's start making this thing pretty. So knocking the scale off of the sides of these old blocks is pretty tricky. You've got a lot of old paint or whatever this coating is that they use on it, and you have like layers of rust and gunk and all this kind of crap. So there's a handful of different tools that you can use to clean it up. For this particular motor, it's got a lot of rust on it because we're in northern Minnesota where they salt excessively, and we got to knock it off, so we're going to use a needler. Well, they're called needlers, they're called scale removers. Basically what this thing is it's a series of like little hardened steel pins that are in the end of almost like an air chisel. And it's just fires all these different little needles at a crazy rate. And as long as you're doing this against a really hard surface, you can use this to knock crap off of it pretty easily. So that's what I'm going to use to get started on this. I'll probably also use some wire brushes. But this should take the bulk of it off, at least loosen a lot of this stuff off, so I can knock it off the sides, because I'm going to be using a coating called a motor coater to get a nice flat black paint job on this thing. Eye protection, ear protection, all the obvious stuff, and give yourself some time because it's going to take a while, these blocks. Excited about this part. So now we've put a few pretty parts on the LS. It's time to bust out the really pretty parts that I'm excited about. So you can't put the work into cleaning up the block and painting it and painting a water pump and all that stuff without having nice valve covers. Now, this is an LS that's going into a classic car. So you're already committing a little bit of sacrilege by doing that. Personally, I don't care that much about all of that, but I do like the idea of having a modern motor with kind of classic vintagey looks to it, right? So you can do that with the LS, and the direction I'm going with this motor, which I'll show you guys in a minute here, what I'm putting on the top of it. With that direction in mind, I'm going to go with some classic looking valve covers. Cover style, meaning that I am using an MSD ignition, and that means I still am dealing with coils. I'm not going to a distributor, so I'm not stepping backwards on that in terms of performance. So what I'm doing is I got a set of valve covers that hide all of your coils underneath it. So it keeps it nice and subtle so that you can toss sexy covers on the top of it. Oops, wrong way. Booyah! So this is what you get. When you pick up this style, you're going to have a somewhat classic design. Again, it's still a giveaway. You still kind of know what you're dealing with, but it looks pretty classic. It's nice. I love the finned look on these things. I mean, I'm a big motorcycle nut, and I just love the fin design on air cools. Same goes with, like old classic cars. They love to fin stuff, and I'm just kind of a sucker for that sort of thing. So this is purely aesthetic, but an aesthetic I'm excited about. So these have to get made sexy, so I'm going to have to powder coat these things pretty quick here. So that's going to be one of the next steps. And then I'll show you guys the intake manifold here. Ta-da! Not a terribly complicated setup. I mean, it's a single plane, meaning that you don't have, pulsing chamber cylinders merged together. You've got, they all basically all run right into one big plenum. So, very simple design. But what's cool about it is it has a lot of open space underneath it. It's open, you got the open areas in here. I just think it looks really sexy. And I've read that these are better, in a lot of instances, these can be better for the Sniper EFI and carb setups. I don't know why, just has something to do, or maybe it was the EFI, yeah. Better for the EFI system. Some people can run into issues with the idle, apparently. I don't know. I want to go with this one anyway, so there we go.